It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to our Health Tuesday discussion. From hypertension, we now move back into the COVID space. And the World Health Organization here in Africa has urged leaders in the SADC region especially to strengthen their response to the COVID-19 pandemic as infections spike dramatically once again. So last week, National Health Minister Joe Phaahla confirmed South Africa has entered the fifth wave with infections driven by the Omicron lineage BA4 and BA5. Maybe that means nothing to you. Maybe that's a light bulb moment. Well, this morning, we are hosting another panel discussion, and joining us is HIV and infectious diseases expert, Dr. Emile Reid, along with Dr. Mekele Van Zagi. They're going to chew on all the health gristle with us this morning because we need an update.
Yes, indeed. Now we're encouraging all of you at home to join in on this discussion, and please to share your experience and maybe your thoughts with us on all things COVID. Have you gotten COVID recently? Maybe did you go for your booster shot? Well, share your experiences by calling us live right now on 021 110 552. Now, before we open up this discussion, let's listen to a voice note sent in by one of our viewers this morning talking about their experience with COVID-19.
Hi there, I have COVID at the moment and I have the symptoms of sore throat, bad fever and body aches and pains, and I'm unvaccinated. I'm not that bad, it's just the fever and the sore throat, but otherwise I'm doing okay.
We're glad to hear that she's okay. Not that chuffed that she's unvaccinated at this stage. We really are resting so many of our hopes on the fact that we've got that mass vaccination going. Dr. Emile, I always remember about the first conversation we had before it broke in this country, and I asked you, what must I prepare for? And you said, with a wry smile, right the next 2-3 years off, and I laughed. Well, I'm not laughing anymore, my friend. 2.5 years down the line, we are entering into our fifth wave. What should we be bracing for now, and what is driving the fifth wave?
Well, I think, guys, the most important thing is to remember that we're dealing with a virus, and viruses are changing. Every time there will be new variants, so new variants and the development of new variants are definitely driving this new fifth wave as well. The second thing driving the fifth wave is people being nonchalant, people being ignorant, carrying on as if there is no COVID around. And then the third thing probably driving this fifth wave is waning immunity. You actually mentioned the BA4 and the BA5 subvariants of Omicron. It's actually been shown to escape vaccines as well, meaning that people who were infected with Omicron a few months ago can be reinfected because of a waning immune system, but also because it escapes our immune system and the vaccines as well. Hence the reason for people to go and get that booster.
This begs my question. Maybe you can answer this, Dr. Mekele. How severe is this fifth wave going to be? Should we be concerned about what's to come?
So I think Emile said it really nicely, is that with viruses, we can predict outcomes, and we can, as medical professionals, try to best equip ourselves for the worst possible outcome. But if I can speak from experience, I think we've seen the resurgence happening. And in my realm, I've seen a lot of incidental COVID positives. And I've seen a lot of upper respiratory tract infections, like running. Like I think the viewer said it so nicely as well. She's got these symptoms. They're not debilitating, and they would never really warrant an admission to hospital. So from my personal experience, I've seen quite a few new positive results, but I have not yet admitted a COVID pneumonia. Okay. So maybe I've admitted patients for other confounding things, but I haven't admitted a pure COVID pneumonia that was requiring hospital, oxygen or therapy in hospital. So maybe that can answer the question. I mean, we can't really say, but from what I've seen so far, I don't think we're going to go into another disaster situation where we need to open up new hospitals or anything like that.
It's not going to put that kind of pressure in your space. And I know you guys have been through the craziest couple of years trying to do your normal day job while balancing the additional pressures. So that's good to hear. What impact then has the vaccination had on this fifth wave? How much has it helped us to put us in this, I don't want to say a strong position, but we are not as weak as we were a year ago?
Well, it actually helped a lot. And not just vaccination, I think let's talk about immunity. And immunity coming from people who's been infected before, and then also people who has added to that been vaccinated, so-called hybrid immunity. And we know around about 85% of people in this country actually have immunity against COVID-19. And that has actually helped us a lot. And the people to worry about are the normal people. We worry about the people that are immunocompromised, people with cancer, getting chemotherapy, people above the age of 60, probably 50 as well, people with underlying lung diseases, people with diabetes mellitus. Those are the people we worry about. But when it comes to immunity, we're actually doing quite well. And that has set the stage for us to have a milder fifth and sixth and seventh wave in future.
Because the bottom line is it's not going anywhere. We've got to learn to live with this and deal with this and cope as best we can. But there are some tools. But we're going to continue this discussion. We'd love to hear from you. 021 110 552 is the number to kind of dial if you've got any questions relating to COVID-19. I'm interested to hear about long COVID and why people are still experiencing symptoms months after they were first diagnosed. We continue the chat in just a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
That amazing performance from the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra still resonating in our studio, hopefully in your home, and we've got another 2 performances coming away. So sit tight for that, but right now we continue our very important discussion this morning.
Yes, it's our panel discussion this morning around the spike in COVID-19 cases in recent weeks and also the fifth wave that we are currently experiencing. Now with us this morning is HIV and infectious disease expert, Dr. Emil Reid, as well as Dr. Michele Vanzaghi. Now we encourage all of you at home to join in on this discussion and also to please share your experience and thoughts with us on all things COVID. You can give us a call right now on 021 110 552. Now we have another voice note that came in by one of our viewers this morning. Let's hear what she had to say.
So I recently tested positive for COVID-19 for the 3rd time. I have no comorbidities, and the first time was during 2020, the first wave, when I had no vaccine. I had all the symptoms, but I didn't require any oxygen. My husband and my daughter also tested positive, and the hardest during that experience was basically having a 4-year-old with both parents feeling sick and weak and tired. The second time was in 2021, about 5 months after having my vaccine, and it wasn't as bad as the first time. The symptoms were definitely mild. I recently tested positive again over the weekend, and it's about a week after I had my second booster. The symptoms are moderate this time, but possibly because I had my booster about a week before. I know I didn't get COVID because I had the booster, but I rather got infected around the same time that I took the booster.
Good.
But I would like to encourage everyone to get vaccinated and get their boosters. My COVID experience in 2020 still remains the worst, and I believe it's because I had no vaccine at that point.
Absolutely.
It works. I mean, as much as we want to dispute this fact and we want to believe in conspiracy theories, the collective might of the entire medical fraternity is focused on this one solution, and we've found a solution. Now we need to follow through. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
Did we make a mistake in relaxing restrictions, or did we need to do this for life to go on? If we look at this fifth spike now, this fifth wave, how much of this is us losing control and how much of this is just par for the course? We're going to have to keep going through these waves. How do you feel about the rules?
We need to learn how to live with COVID. And I think a lot of what has happened, backtracking on a lot of the restrictions, was probably a little bit too late as well. but we probably need to do more. We need to have a plan in place, say, for the next few months to for instance, discuss what we're going to do with masking. You know, people shouldn't sort of be wearing masks outside anymore. And when we're inside, we probably need to wear masks unless everybody have been vaccinated, and we still need to get there. So that will be the next thing that we will have to tick off the list, and that we need to backtrack on, and that is for masks to actually go. There is definitely still a place for masking for us who work with sick people on a daily basis, and then also people that are at high risk to contract COVID-19 should probably continue wearing masks as well. But having a mask mandate as such is probably not necessary.
We're moving beyond that.
Doctors, we have a call on the line right now. We have Cornell from Uppington. Good morning, Cornell. How are you doing? What is your question for the doctors this morning?
Hi, good morning. I'd just like to find out, me and my husband had COVID last year, and we were hospitalized. We were very sick, and it's been almost a year now, and we still, every time we go back to the doctors to check our health before we get vaccinated, because that was what we were advised to do before we get vaccinated. They keep on telling us we're still not well enough. So we've got constant respiratory issues, and it's been a year now, and we still haven't been vaccinated. So we had a horrific experience in the hospital. People died, way too many people died in front of us. So I am actually not against the vaccination, but I'm scared of the vaccination at the moment because is it going to make me sicker? And do I not have a natural immunity against COVID now? Because I'm pretty sure I had it a few weeks ago again because I was very sick, but nothing like last year. So my question is do I have a natural immunity against it that would be strong enough, or must I still get vaccinated?
Fantastic question. Sorry that you've been through what you've been through, but so glad that you are here to talk to us and raise the question. I'm going to put it to our panel now. She's clearly, understandably frustrated with where she is right now. Where does she stand?
So I think the first issue that needs to be addressed is why her doctor is telling her she's not well enough to get vaccinated. Emil touched on the point of people with risks and comorbidities are essentially the people we want to vaccinate.
The most important.
So, I mean, obviously there may have been a good reason for that, but maybe just to unpack that with her doctor about what he means about preceding health. I know we vaccinated a lot of people who have a lot of comorbidities with the idea of reducing
helping them, not
veracity.
Putting them at risk. Yeah.
And then the next thing I think we've also touched on it is that even though you've had COVID, we're dealing with a virus. And viruses are constantly changing, and we've seen this. It's proven that there's a new variant, and we've seen so many new variants. And what we're doing as clinicians and scientists is creating a vaccine that is perfectly adapted for the latest variant. And you know, like she spoke about being possibly infected. I had symptoms, but I didn't test. I think that's quite a big discussion. People are like, I definitely had COVID, and you're like, did you test? No, but I had the symptoms. So, you know, the vaccine is such a nice way of being like, okay, it's not, you know, there's no question about it. I've been vaccinated, and I have the most recent and most updated, you know, protection against the virus that's currently circulating. So I always say there's so many incentives to vaccinate. Even if you've tested positive, it's so important in going into the future. And we've spoken about living with COVID. And it's really important that people understand that it's a virus that's changing, and we'll have to live with it and continue to follow the science.
And just continue to keep that conversation going with your health professional. There was obviously a reason why they felt that you weren't well enough to get that vaccine, but I think there is a big question mark there. So Cornell, please speak to your doctor and get that vaccine. That is, I think the watchword for today is we stand the best chance if we get as many of us vaccinated as possible. And that's first vaccination, second, or your booster. We've got to keep up with this virus because it's constantly mutating and evolving, and we've got to as well. This conversation is going to continue in a moment.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for dialing back into a very important conversation this morning. A little bit overdue. We're having a panel discussion around the current state of COVID-19. And of course, we are back with HIV and infectious diseases expert and good friend of the show, Dr. Emile Reid, and another good friend of the show, Dr. Van Zagi. They're still with us this morning as we discuss COVID-19, long COVID, whatever that is, and a multitude of different factors that are coming into bear at the moment. But over the last few days, the average number of new infections has been around 8,000 a day, although the number of deaths has significantly decreased. Wow. What does this mean? So we encourage all of you guys at home to join in on the discussion, and please share your experiences and thoughts with us on all things COVID, especially if you've had so-called long COVID. Give us a shout on 021 110 5552.
Oh, that long COVID, it's a big topic. It's topical all over the place. But we did get a voice note by one of our viewers. In fact, let's find out about her particular COVID situation.
Good morning. So I woke up this past Friday feeling very fatigued. I had an abnormal burning sensation in my nostrils. I had slight chest pains, but I had experienced no coughing, no sore throat, no body aches. So I thought maybe I had the flu, but it turns out it is COVID. I had my last booster shot in March, so be careful out there, everyone.
That's the message, really, being careful. But the one real big way to be careful is to get vaccinated, and it's been an ongoing process that people are still reluctant to get involved in.
And you know, the amazing thing, we were talking off camera earlier. If you get vaccinated, the chances of you developing long COVID is 80% less than if you were not vaccinated. So, I mean, that's another good incentive to get vaccinated. And if you speak to people that have been suffering from long COVID, they will actually tell you how debilitating long COVID really is and how negatively it has impacted on their quality of life.
Because we just don't know what to do about it as well. I think there are still so many question marks. We've got someone on the line right now joining us. Sasha is on the line, I'm hoping, right now. Good morning, Sasha. How are you?
Good morning. Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for connecting with us. What's your comment or your question for the panel this morning?
So I have a question, please. My husband, our two boys, and myself are currently recovering from COVID. I'm on day 13. I want to find out about the effects of the virus on the brain. I have almost no sense of smell, very little sense of taste, and the nerves in my back down to the back of my knees seem to be very irritated, where I can't feel my own touch on my skin, or it feels like I'm touching a shell when I do so. So I just want to find out about the effects of this virus on the brain and the senses, and how long after we've had COVID can we take the follow-up booster, because we've all been vaccinated.
Two brilliant questions. Thank you so much for that, Sasha. I don't know who wants to weigh in.
Maybe I'll just touch on the topic of sort of brain fog. I think that's a term that's been thrown around quite frequently. And I've had a lot of people come into hospital saying that they think they have brain fog.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's such a broad term.
Yes.
And I think what Sasha's trying to allude at is what can she attribute to COVID and what could be a sinister symptom that she should actually
go and look for another answer,
watch out for. So, I mean, brain fog, I think a lot of people have described sort of a little bit of forgetfulness. They're not as good at remembering small details, things like that. And I think, obviously, as you age, that's a normal phenomenon. But I would say if you're having significant neurological impairment and your family is noticing changes, don't immediately just think, okay, it must be brain fog, and let it continue.
Yeah.
It's always worrying when society and the public talk about a phenomenon and they normalize what could be really dangerous symptoms, you know? And we don't want COVID to take away from people's awareness about the rest of all the diseases that exist.
Absolutely.
So I think that's one thing that we could talk about in terms of this discussion. But maybe you can touch on the actual, I mean, you have much more knowledge about like, what's actually going on in the brain.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point Michele is actually making there. Brain fog. It shouldn't be normalized at all. And as we said before, I mean, COVID can affect absolutely any organ in the body. Any organ that have what we call a ACE2 receptor, COVID can actually affect, whether that is the pancreas, the lungs, the liver, the gut, even the brain and your nervous system. So the important thing is to actually distinguish between acute changes, which usually happens because of inflammation, and when you develop taste or smell issues with acute COVID, it usually disappears after a few weeks, maximum of 6 weeks. And we do find in those people who have developed long COVID, it can actually persist for longer than 6 months as well. It can also affect the peripheral nervous system, the legs, the arms. People can develop what we call Guillain-Barré, where they develop an inflammatory paralysis of the peripheral nerves going to the legs, which mean they cannot walk. So the important thing is, as Michele has said, is that one should not attribute all of these changes to COVID on its own. The important thing is to go and look for help, see a specialist, go for the necessary examinations in order to get to a definite diagnosis and actually rule out other causes for the same symptoms as well.
That's been the reality. So many other cases have fallen through the cracks. So many people outside of the COVID space affected by the strain that this has put on the medical fraternity at large. But I think ultimately here, you've got nothing to lose. Go and ask the right people the right questions. If there is anything alarming you about your own physical state at the moment, don't just paint it with the COVID brush. Speak to someone and get it checked out. And if you've got any more comments or questions, you can keep the conversation going on the Expresso Morning Show Facebook page. 021 110 552 is the number to dial.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to it, your feel-good breakfast show on a Tuesday morning. We are delving into health conversations and specifically zoning into COVID-19, the pandemic that has had the world at a complete standstill, held us all at ransom as well. In fact, the fifth wave, we are currently in it here in South Africa, and we've been asking you to get in touch with us over our social media platforms, as well as give us a call on 021 110 552 to weigh in and ask your questions to our trusted medical professionals, Dr. Emil Reed and Dr. Michele Van Zaki, if you've got any of those experiences.
Yeah, man. Before we delve into what you guys have put down online, here's another message that was sent in via a person relating their experience with COVID-19. Take a listen.
I had COVID in last year, May 2021. I was not vaccinated. I was quite ill. I had a fever for about 7 days. My body was sore and then recovered thereafter. And then I had COVID not so long ago and I had myself vaccinated and I was actually feeling just fluish, but it was not like I felt the very first time I had COVID.
Okay.
Testify.
Thank you for that. That helps to know that we are hearing people's first-hand experiences who have had COVID pre-vaccination as well as post-vaccination and being able to contrast the differences, right? But look, the booster, the one lady asked the question earlier on, it was Sasha in Johannesburg who asked the question, is how soon after testing positive for COVID can she get the third or second or first booster? Michele.
So, I mean, obviously we talk about the onset of symptoms, and the medically correct answer is 2 weeks. So 14 days, we can get the booster after testing positive. You know, we talked about immunity and how different, and Emil's much more knowledgeable about, you know, the actual physiological immunity that we build, and what happens when we're infected and we actually have the virus versus inoculation with a vaccination, which just creates immunity. So, I mean, the easy answer is 2 weeks, you know.
Well, we've had some comments and questions come through on our Facebook platform in particular, and this one coming from Tinswalo, who said this, and it's going back to something that we've already spoken about, but maybe you can elaborate. I need to know why. Is it that after contracting COVID-19, many people lose their sense of taste, or food tastes horrible or spoiled for over 6 months? My mom went through this. What is actually going on? Is it just a short-circuiting in the brain? Why is our neuro system affected in this way, in particular, taste and smell?
Well, it's actually, if you remember, way back, 2 years back, one of the most important symptoms that we had, especially from the original, the Wuhan ancestral virus, was taste and smell issues. And the big thing is that is a direct, the direct cause for that is actually toxicity due to the virus itself. And the big thing, as we said earlier, you can actually experience it with acute COVID, and you can also experience it with long COVID. So that's probably why the food doesn't taste well.
Or smells off.
And it smells off.
I've been with people as they experience it. Crazy.
We've got a caller on the line. It's Haley out in Cape Town who has a question for our doctors this morning. Haley, how's it going?
I'm okay. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I knew I had COVID, and I've been allergic to quite a few medication, and I haven't been vaccinated, but I'm actually scared to take the vaccination. So what do I do now if I'm allergic to quite a couple of medications?
Haley, I'm just going to ask you, why are you scared to take the vaccination? Because you're worried that there might be something in that vaccination that you're allergic to. Why are you resistant to taking the vaccination?
I'm just scared that there might be something that I'm allergic to. That's the reason why I never took the vaccination.
Haley, that's a fantastic question. You know, I actually see a lot of people like Haley who's actually scared of taking the vaccine, and they're scared because they're allergic to other things.
Yeah.
And the important thing when it comes to vaccines, people are normally worried about, I've got a protein intolerance, or I'm allergic to certain protein or egg substances.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the COVID vaccine, they don't use any of those substances at all. So the only thing within the COVID vaccine that can actually cause an allergy is something called polyethylene glycol. And that is a preservative that people normally use in vaccines. Okay. And if there is somebody who is allergic to polyethylene glycol, well, that's the only contraindication to not get the vaccine.
Getting it or being a little bit resistant.
So I actually want to invite Haley to get vaccinated.
Yes.
Please just do it for yourself. Haley, thank you so much. Well, to everyone who called in this morning, some fantastic questions. Clearly, we could spend a full 3 hours and then another 3 going through this. So I think we'll probably continue this discussion next week. Thank you for cooking. I'm surprised we didn't make you dance or sing today. You've done just about everything else. Doc, we love you. Both
and he's not done, I think. I think there is another recipe to do.
One more recipe.
Michele is here serving on her Feel Good Breakfast show. But please do weigh in with more questions, because next week we will delve back into this. Let's go back to the kitchen.